Hello and welcome to the Native American Heritage Month screening and keynote featuring DeFaro Wunatai from Reservation Dogs. Yes! Tonight we will be celebrating Indigenous representation and brilliance within media. This event is in partnership with the Native American Cultural Center and RAM Events, your student programming board on campus. Subtitles and sign language will be present throughout the event. My name is Najoni Valdez. I use the she series pronouns. I serve as the NAC liaison, and I am a member of the Navajo Nation, specifically in relation to the Black Forest Clan. I'm really honored to be tonight's host, but before we get started, I'd like to note that restrooms are located between both entrances on the second floor adjacent to the piano, so when y'all were walking in, the binary restrooms were in between those spaces. Elevators are located on the upper balcony up there, or can be located alongside the binary bathrooms downstairs. The gender-neutral bathroom is upstairs by the elevator as well. If you need any assistance or have any comments, questions, or concerns, please find a REM Event staff member in an orange polo. You can see us all around. Cool. Lastly, we must recognize that tonight we are celebrating on the sovereign territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute peoples and nations who continue to live here as it is their ancestral homelands. Colorado State University has issued an email to mend and uplift their relationship with Native nations, and as Indigenous peoples, we hope that their mission and goals, are not empty promises but intentional. With that being said, I will not recite the land acknowledgement, as many of you here in this space tonight are Indigenous peoples who practice stewardship every day. For those of you watching and enjoying the event tonight, please reflect upon your occupancy and the privilege that has been afforded to you via the Rural Land Grant Act. Let's foster a safe space, everyone. Okay, we will now begin episode 1, season 2 of Reservation Dogs. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce DeFaro Wunatai. He is an Oji-Cree Canadian actor who plays Bear Smallhill on the FX Hulu series Reservation Dogs, and is a winner of the Independent Spirit Award for Best Ensemble in a Scripted Series. Reservation Dogs has been awarded a Peabody Award, nominated for the Critics' Choice Television Awards and Golden Globes, and is also named one of the best series of 2021 by many critics. In addition, the American Film Institute named it one of the 10 best television programs of 2021. DeFaro played Hank in the film Beans, which won Best Motion Picture in the Canadian Screen Awards. There's a lot of awards. Finally, Mr. Wunatai has been featured in a series such as Holly Hobby, Murdoch Mysteries, Creeped Out, and Tribal. But how about I let DeFaro tell y'all more about himself? Time to bring out the dog. Please give DeFaro a warm welcome. Cool.
Hi.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Can you tell us about yourself? Just a starter question.
Yeah, well, my full name is DeFaro Mesquades Mikelo Shawanatai. I'm half Anishinaabe, specifically Oji-Cree, and half Guyanese from descendants from South America in Guyana. I was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I have family residing on the reservation Kitchename-Kusawip, also known as Big Trout Lake in northwestern Ontario. And I'm an actor, Yeah, that's basically it.
Of course. Can you tell us something that is not on Google? Tough question.
Tough question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot is on Google.
One thing that's not on Google is I love music. I'm a big music guy. I'm like from everything from Delta blues all the way up to nowadays, And one of my favorite artists, if we're looking to Indigenous artists regarding Delta blues, is an artist named Charlie Patton. Yeah, nice. Charlie Patton is dope. He's Afro-Indigenous, and really paved the way for rock and roll and later folk songs, Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Bear is a very light-hearted, mischievous character who is constantly faced with challenges. This encourages him to grow into a better man, not only for himself, but for his community and for his friends. Do you ever feel as though you learn alongside Bear?
If I was there?
Do you feel like you learn alongside Bear through his challenges?
Yeah, it's what's beautiful about the writers is that they did it accurate, really. I mean, like I'm very similar to Bear. There's not much differences besides that he wears like a lot of flannel, and I don't have a lot of flannel, you know. But it's the same thing with every other actor, really. Like Willie Jack is literally the exact same. I mean, Paulina Alexis is literally the exact same as Willie Jack. There's no difference. Actually, like 90% of her lines are improv. You know, she just came up with it by herself. You know, same with Cheese. Cheese is like just a little nerdy kid who just loves Godzilla, like the biggest Godzilla fan ever. Like his wallpaper, like bed sheets. Like he has action figures that are collectibles that are like $800. Like crazy dedicated. He's literally the same. And we got to pick all of our outfits, so like we pretty dressed the same. You know, you see Lane with his Godzilla shirt and stuff. So we're all very similar. But with Bear is that I felt connected with Bear right off the bat. I think the first audition process that I got for Reservation Dogs was 2 scenes and 2 pages each scene. No, 4 pages each scene, so 2 pages. 4 pages total, 2 pages each scene. And right off the bat, I felt connected. I felt really weird that I had a feeling like, later on meeting Sterling, I asked him, like, did you spy on me? You know what I mean? Because it was like he was getting everything really right, and it was kind of strange, you know? But as Bear is growing and learning in the show, it's the same with me, you know what I mean? Me and Bear went through very similar circumstances, so how he's growing is how I grew or how I'm learning to grow, so we're very similar.
Awesome. And do you feel like you've pulled any valuable teachings that have stuck with you since the beginning of the show?
One thing that really stuck with me, but that I knew my whole life because I can see it in examples. But one thing that really stuck with me is a quote that Paulina says, and it's a very quote commonly thrown all over Indian country, which is "Laughter is medicine," you know, and how we treat traumas is how we treat trauma in my family is we laugh about it, right, and instead of dwell on it. So that's something that really stuck with me from the whole from the whole shooting process is how we do that. You know, we do it both on set and off set because, you know, we dealt with people like Daniel who were lost way too soon, you know. Yeah.
Thank you. Reservation Dogs is the first breakthrough television series that is represented by Native peoples both on and off camera. What does this mean for us as the Indigenous community?
Well, it's beautiful because it's not like nobody has a say for us. We have a say ourselves, you know what I mean? Like, this is the first, what's beautiful about this is the first led Indigenous project, and what it should show non-Indigenous people is that, look, the first Indigenous-led project was a comedy, you know what I mean? And we're we like laughing, we're very funny people, you know, and that should show people what we're like in this sense, you know, and to be a part of a project that's the first of its kind, it's surreal, you know what I mean? It's surreal to be sitting up here, and it's surreal to be going to these shows and being recognized and stuff. Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. So Dallas Goldtooth plays the spirit who finds Bear at his hardest moments. What is the intentionality of the spirit communicating exclusively with him?
Well, I feel like Bear needed it more than any of them, really. You know, he's lost, you know. Throughout the series, you see that each of them heal through different ways. You know, you have Willie Jack leading and trying to become a traditional woman and have her ancestors with her for always. And then you have Cheese, who's staying with his grandmother and healing through that way. And with Bear, it was different. I mean, with Bear, he didn't have a father figure at all, and his mom's very busy. So Spirit really helped him, which you see in the first episode too, which is Bear actually needs the guidance. He's been rejecting him the whole time. When he actually starts to leave, he regrets it. He realizes that it's helpful and he needs it, you know?
And with that notion, is there a journey that Bear is on that isn't obvious to the viewers? Since he has that guidance, since he is his own individual with different just personality characteristics, different nuances with his just with his identity? Is he on a totally different journey that is like meant for a different purpose?
Interesting. I don't really know how to answer that quickly. You know, I mean,
It's okay. We can think on it.
Could you restructure it?
Yeah. So something that isn't obvious to the viewers,
Right.
because the spirit talks exclusively with him, and because is that helpful?
No, yes, exactly. Bear, what's obvious in the show is Bear is trying to learn how to become a man, and he's learning from that he's learning what not to do. You know, he's learning what not to do off of the uncles that he meets in the roofing episode, and he's learning what not to do regarding being a parent in the sense of what his father was. You know what I mean? Taking care of his mother and being there for her. But he's trying to learn how to become a man. That's what I feel like. You know?
Yeah. What did it feel like for you in that episode when he was communicating with Daniel's father?
Right.
What did it feel like for you personally?
Well, I felt very similar right off the bat to Bear. So Bear is literally me. So like when I did read that first episode, read that script, I was just as shocked as probably Bear was. You know what I mean? Like I was actually, and I felt it, and I want to say I had the feelings of what Bear would feel like being around him, you know, and near him. And but that actor, Danny, was amazing. He plays amazing. He's an amazing actor. But he did an amazing job as Daniel's dad. But that's something that, an issue that needed to be brought up was the father figure of Daniel, you know, and the big reason for that, big reason why Bear doesn't like Danny is because he blames Daniel's death on him, you know, not being there enough for him. So that was really different, you know.
Yeah, and in that same episode, we see Daniel's spirit come to Daniel and Bear.
Right.
What did that feel like for you in that scene? And what was the importance of seeing that spirit?
Right. Well, first of all, I was looking at a cloud and it was bright as shit. So like, I was like blind like half the time looking at it. But seeing it actually in post and seeing, you know, the add the CGI and the little misty glow, it how do I put it? It was I felt like the nail in the coffin, you know, like he accepted it. If Daniel was there, he wants us to reconnect, build our patches together with me and his father, you know, and that's what it was beautiful about that scene. You know.
Thank you. At the end of season 1 and throughout season 2, we watched the characters understand the importance of living on their ancestral homelands. The storyline highlights their connection to the land and their relations. How is this to you an act of indigenous resurgence and reclamation?
Sorry, how what?
How is this to you indigenous resurgence, the characters becoming more connected to the land and with one another?
Well, what's really beautiful about it is that that's not how it started off with the Res Dogs. Is they started off rejecting their community, blaming their community on the death of their friend. And you see in season 2 and late in season 1 that they're realizing that's the only thing that can make them heal, and is being with their people. And you see that in the Mabel episode too, when Laura Dannon's grandmother passes and how the whole community comes together. Fun fact, actually, what's beautiful is that Laura Dannon in the show, Devery Jacobs, is a Mohawk from Canada in a reservation called Genawage, which is actually what you brought up earlier about a film I did called Beans. The film I did called Beans was I played brother and sister with Paulina Alexis, so we knew each other before the project. And that film, if you guys don't know about the Oka crisis, very brief, back in 1990, there's a small town called Oka, 30 minutes away from Montreal, and they wanted to expand their golf course onto a Mohawk burial site. And the Mohawks were like, yeah, screw that. So they just blocked off the Mercier Bridge for 78 days, and the military were called in. It's a very beautiful film to watch because Tracy Deer was 12 years old when that happened, and the film follows a 12-year-old. So it's a very beautiful perspective of seeing a youth going through that traumatic experience, you know, and that was only 1990, and everybody who did terrible shit against Native people during those times are still alive to this day in Canada. Yeah, just a little interesting thing like that.
Yeah. And then Yeah, we can clap.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, let's clap. That was a great answer.
There's also a documentary called Oco Crisis documentary. It's actually a very beautiful 2-hour documentary, and it's beautiful. I recommend every single person to watch it. I literally grew up watching this. I watched it more than probably 50 times. I'm not even lying. Like, it's a very beautiful and powerful documentary. If you want to learn about resistance movements in Canada, that's not talked about a lot. You know, just like yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that plug. Was there ever an instance for you in which you saw the connection to the land happen for your character as Bear?
What do you mean, sorry?
Just understanding his importance and connection to his community and on his reservation in Oklahoma. Was that ever an instance that you saw in the show or filming?
While filming?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for sure. I mean, like, what's beautiful about the set is that besides being the first led Indigenous television program regarding all Native Writers Room directors and writers, is we had almost every single space of the department areas, like the whole crew. Not every single crew member was Native, but every single department we had Native influences all in it. And what's beautiful about that is that I felt like home. I felt at home, you know what I mean?
Nice.
And I've been on other quote-unquote Indigenous-led sets where you're literally, the actor is the only probably Native person on set, you know, and it's really weird vibes because they like to ask you questions. But hey, like, you know, like, I like to answer questions, you know what I mean? But I'm still young, you know what I mean? I don't have all the answers. If you want to learn, talk to an elder. They will be happy to teach you, you know? And, but to answer your question, I seen a community build in the 3 days that we built. We shot the first episode of the season 1 in 3 days, and which is, to let you guys know, that's groundbreaking because they usually take like a week to do one episode, you know. And we did that in 3 days, and I left those 3 days later feeling like I found a family in Oklahoma with every single person there, you know. So that's how I seen it, you know. And plus, Oklahoma's one of the biggest states for land back. Like half of the state's given back to the nation, you know, even half of Tulsa, half of a city, you know, which is beautiful.
Yeah. So for the Indigenous community, you are more than an actor, but you also act as a storier. You've generated a large impact amongst all demographics of Indigenous people, but specifically amongst youth who finds Bear very relatable. Sorry. Why do you think we need Bear as a character?
Well, I seen myself in Bear, you know, and like you said, I know that there's thousands of other little Indigenous kids who see themselves as in Bear too, and see themselves in every character in the show. You know, from being from Uncle Brownie to Willie Jack, and it's beautiful because one story that really stuck with me that really I realized made an impact, because when you shoot the show, you don't feel like that. You know, you're not feeling like you're doing something crazy different. Even though I knew it, you know, it's not feeling like you're doing anything crazy. You're just doing your job and going home, right? But you never feel like then and there you're making an impact or making a difference or adding representation. So like, if you guys seen any of the billboards, any of the promo shoots, any still photos, photography that was done by a Native American photographer named Ryan Redcorn. He's a very awesome guy, and he told me one thing that stuck with me is that his kids are growing up and seeing this as normal. You know what I mean? And that's something I can literally not even comprehend having this show and being a kid and having this show. You know, and there's also other beautiful shows out there that are doing the same thing. One show, which is amazing, it's called Spirit Rangers, and that's like a cartoon show. It's a kid show. You know, it's these little kids flinging their medallions and turning into animals and doing on creative adventures and stuff. I wish I had that. You know what I mean? Like seeing myself on cartoons and on the big screen in films and everything. You know, and it must be a beautiful time to be Indigenous right now and be, you know, and grow up in this.
Well, you're well on your way.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about how you found out about getting the role as Bear?
Yeah, so we started the audition process in 2018. Sterling Harjo wanted to do as local as possible, so he sent out and did almost every single Indigenous person in Oklahoma and did the audition process with them. And once they were still looking for other roles like Bear, then they started going abroad into Canada and into Mexico as well. And then how my audition process was started off as a self-tape, which is nowadays, if you guys are any of your actors, it's hilarious now. Everything is on self-tape because of COVID. But before that, that was like fun because I could just do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I did that and I got a call back. I was amazingly I got a call back, and then me and my twin brother, who's also an actor as well, who was got the final audition process for Cheese actually. We all flew out to Los Angeles for my first time back in 2019. That was the final audition process, and they put all of us in the room together. This is being the Indian Mafia. So every character in the Indian Mafia auditioned for one of the roles. So one of them, Bone Thug Dog auditioned for Bear. You know what I mean? Every single one auditioned for the Res Dogs. They threw us all in the room. And they got us to know each other. They made us sit down for 2 hours, and we got to know each other, crack jokes, made a family already off of those 2 hours. This is my first time meeting Lane. I've already known Paulina. First time meeting Devry. Mm-hmm. And then once I see like this shadow like behind the door, and I was like, yo, who the hell is that? You know? And then like Sterling Harjo, who's the creator of the show, Taika, who's the creator, Angelique, who's the casting director. They all walked in, and everyone went game face. They're like, okay, this is the moment. No more joking around, man. Only to them. You know what I mean? Like, right. Save your good jokes, you know? And so I walk up to the door right before that. I just took like a deep breath, and I'm like, bitch, I got this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I got this. Like, I wasn't even scared. I was like, I want to get this over with. I want to get this role. Go back to Toronto, man. You know what I mean? Like, I want to get this role. So I walked in there, and one thing I give to any person who's an actor or inspiring actor is that try stuff new. You know, like embarrass yourself. You know what I mean? Like do stuff that you think that may be embarrassing, but just do it because you never know. I've done that before many times. Like one time I was in an audition room and like they wanted me to tackle my the character that I was facing. You know what I mean? My dumb ass actually tried to tackle the reader. No. You know what I mean? So that type of stuff is maybe a little too far, but you know, like what I did in the final audition process is that if you see in the first episode that Bear says, "Yo, what's up? This is my hideout. This is my friends," and all that stuff. The whole montage clips that's my audition process. So what I did is that I walked up in there, you know, and I seen how they had like the camera just chilling there, like on a desk, like not strapped up or anything. So I was like, can I like play with the camera? Can I actually like do the scene? Because they wanted me to look into the camera and like straight in, look into it. I'm like, that's weird, awkward. It's not even realistic. You know what I mean? So can I pick it up and play with it? And they said, yeah. So I did the whole scene. I was like, yo, look at the Res Dogs. I made all of them be the Res Dogs, you know. And Sterling Harjo told me that was one of the biggest decisions. Why I did that was a big reason why they picked me for that role, is because I just tried something new. You know what I mean? So again, you can embarrass yourself many times. I probably did embarrass myself over there doing that, but I got the role, you know?
Yeah, it's very unique. I think that there is an importance, or you can say significance, in being scared and just doing it anyways, right? Exactly. So to circle back, can you tell us something that's not on Google?
I'm a big hiker. This is just like getting to know me type stuff. I'm not gonna throw that on whatever and then some website, but I'm a big hiker. I love hiking. Like Colorado, man. I guess have some big hiking trails and stuff like that. I'm only gonna be here until tomorrow, man. But I'll go hike in the dark or some shit. You know what I mean? Like I'll go do something cool like that. You know? But I'm a big hiker. I recently just learned how to surf.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was sick. You know what I mean? Just learned how to surf. And I just got signed with a modeling agency called IMG, which is pretty cool.
Congratulations.
To do that too, so thank you very much. Yeah, it's the same agency that my girlfriend Kwana Chasing Horse is a part of too. So it'd be nice to be in that spaces with her more often. Yeah.
Speaking of Kwana Chasing Horse, can you tell us about your tattoos?
For sure. Yeah, so Kwana and her mom are traditional tattoo artists up in Alaska in the Yukon Territory. Along the Yukon River, in a village called Eagle. And her mother grew up learning the very traditional values. They live in literally deep in the bush, like deepest in the bush, you know, like goddamn, you know, we went out there and I was like, damn, this is far, man, like, where are you taking me, you know, but so they grew up in our traditional ways. They hunted every single day, they fished every single day, they exchanged stories, and eventually when Kwana and her mom were ready, they practiced tattooing. And Kwana Chasing Horse was actually in her nation, in her community in Eagle and the Ahangwichin people. She was the first one to bring that back, traditional markings. And so I was like, man, tattoo me, man. You know what I mean? So I got this tattoo right here. This is, I call my third eye, because I think that's so cool, because I liked Hinduism when I was a little kid, but also I find it's cool because I can like flip people off and shoot them at the same time. You know what I mean? And then I got this. These are all stick and poke that she did for me. And then I got this one over here, which is my reservation's flag. It's a sun, and then over here I got both Anishinaabe designs, and then I got one over here that's the moon. And if any of you are familiar with Anishinaabe depictions, writings, drawings, art, you can see that there's a lot of lines connecting things to show there's connection with all of us, even the ground and animals and everything. So my plan is to putting a little line in the back of my neck, connecting them. I was gonna do it in the front, but I was like, that looks weird.
Right.
You know what I mean? That look really weird. But no, Kwana gifted me these beautiful medicine. You know, it's healing. They say that tattooing is healing. You know, for them, and it's very true. You know, very true.
Yes, thank you. All right, cool. I love that question. That answer. Wow. Okay, this role is very major, and we understand it may come with a lot of pressure and weight to be representing the Indigenous cultural experience. How can the Native community best support you?
You don't need to support me. Support other Native inspiring actors. Like, shit, I already got this really nice ass show. You know what I mean? Like, give attention to some other actors who are inspiring actors, just designers. You know, everything in between. And make sure that the Indigenous creatives get out there way more. You know what I mean? And that's how you can help uplift all of us, not just one person. You know what I mean? Because you never should just be one person when it talks about our whole community, you know, our whole nation. You know, so just keep uplifting, keep donating, keep watching these shows. There's many shows out there like Rutherford Falls that sadly got canceled. You know, but keep watching these types of shows, and we'll be here as long. It was funny too as well. Is like I hated when when we first started doing interviews and the shows first started coming out, is they said what a moment it is for Indigenous people, you know, which is such bullshit. Like no, we were, first of all, obviously we're not being here in North America for a moment, and also we were not in the film industry for a moment. We've been in the film industry for a very long time, since the fucking first beginning of films, you know. But when people always ask me, it's we did have a representation in film, but it was negative. It was misrepresentation. It was stereotypes, you know. People say that what a representation you have now. It's no, we had a representation, but it was not what we wanted, and it didn't represent us. And that's actually what's beautiful about the show Reservation Dogs, and literally the writers and creatives, is that Sterling Harjo, who's the creator of the show, created a comedy group back in the early 2000s on YouTube called 1491s. Little play on joke with 1492, hilarious, you know. But the logo is a arrow sticking itself in the ass. And I asked him, like, why that? You know what I mean? Like, why that? You know? And Sterling and Dallas told me that it's representing that if you were to make fun of anybody, anything, you make fun of yourself first. You know what I mean? And we see that inside the show with Spirit. You know, that's what they thought we looked like. You know, that's what literally they only thought we looked like was just like a long-haired, dark skin on a horse. You know what I mean? Half naked. You know, and like what the joke on with the little punching ourselves in the stomach is that he's not fit. You know what I mean? He's just literally like an uncle. You know, like he's not really like buff warrior that you see in like the 70s getting shot off at John Wayne, you know what I mean? It's like, it's realistic, you know, and that's what's beautiful about the show, you know what I mean? Is we poke fun at each other as much as anything else, you know? Of
course, humble yourself. Okay, so just 2 more questions left. As an Indigenous person working in a highly Eurocentric dominated industry, how do you and others stay grounded in your work? How do you stay motivated in your work?
That's actually a really good question, honestly, because like you can get lost in all this really easily. There's so much stuff going on, but staying together. What's beautiful about the cast is we're literally a family. How I would describe the whole Reservation Dogs family is that it starts a big circle, which is everybody in between, right? You have the writers, literally all the writers and all the directors like to be called auntie and uncle. So everybody, you know, everybody is auntie and uncle on the whole set, you know. So you have the whole family right here. Then you have a little circle in between that, which is the Res Dogs and Indian Mafia, the youth of the show, right? We're all hanging out together as like a bunch of kids, you know. And then in between that, you got like the little troublemakers, and that's like me, Paulina, Willie Jack, and Daniel, and Bone Thug Dog, and like that's like answer your question, the one way that we all together stay grounded, stay motivated is communicate with each other, you know, and spend time with each other besides working, you know, and like we're very grounded people. I'd love to say that we are very grounded people, so it keeps us grounded being with each other on set. And also nature. I'm a big hiker, so being in nature literally is just the most groundingest thing, and you feel like you're like just a little speck, you know? Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give Native students in the space who are also working in a highly white-dominated institute?
Yeah. Well, if you're in, all I can give advice to is for actors. I don't know nothing about anything else. But if you're a young, inspired actor, any actor, but especially if you're a young, inspired Indigenous actor, you know, one thing that I learned about another beautiful thing, I'm talking about Res Dog, but another beautiful thing about Reservation Dogs is that it was casted by Angelique Midthunder, who's Indigenous. And if it wasn't casted by an Indigenous person, I feel like you would see a very different result, you know, a not positive result. You know, one thing that they always said in the beginning of casting this was that there's not enough Indigenous actors out there. Which is funny is that they're only looking in urban places. They're not looking on reservations, they're not looking in rural areas, you know what I mean? And even in the cities, they're not looking that hard either, you know? So they like to say that we're not there, we're trying to get in this industry, but we are. Again, we've been doing it for the whole time. But, my advice would be, you know, if you're doing these auditions and you don't get lucky enough, say get an Indigenous casting director. So, let me say this instead, actually. The one negative thing I feel like when it comes to non-Indigenous casting directors casting Indigenous projects is that for those casting directors who do not know our culture and do not know our people, they will go to what they think is the best thing to learn, which is pop culture. And again, when we talked about pop culture, is all misrepresentation, all stereotypes, you know, so them going to that area to try to find us is terrible, you know what I mean? And that's still going on to this day, like it's still right now going on, you know, so if you're an Indigenous actor and you're getting denied these roles, I've had many times, and myself included, many people tell me that casting directors told them that they do not look Native enough, you know, so that is very bullshit because we come in every single shade of the rainbow, but, you know, and one day they will come to realize that, you know, but right now they do not realize that. So if you are an inspired actor who's Afro-Indigenous, who's Caucasian Indigenous, who's whatever, that doesn't fit the whole stereotype of what we're supposed to look like, and you're getting denied roles, do not give up. Like, do not literally give up at all. Like, if you feel like you need to give up, that's on you, but don't give up because of this, you know? Again, the times are changing. Just like Bob Dylan said, times are changing, and they're, you know, and they're gonna come to see that, you know? So, that's one advice I gotta say for that. Another one is that if any of you guys want to become doing acting, you know, Angelique Midthunder does open casting call sheets. Those are for people who do not have agents. So if you are interested, Google right now on your phone on Instagram, go on Angelique Midthunder's page. She has 2 different pages where she tosses auditions everywhere. You know, so if you find yourself in one of these auditions and you say, hey, that's me, and I want to try it out, do it. You know, because like you won't regret it. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing this since I was 15, and it's been a short period, and now I'm finding, you know, a little bit of success. And it takes time, you know what I mean? There's a lot of actors who get their breaks in their 50s, you know what I mean? And you just got to keep on working, you know? And one thing that, but one thing that I want to say is that after working on Reservation Dogs, it really changed my values. Now when an Indigenous-led project comes my way, I want to make sure that either they have a Native writer or a Native director. Both would be perfect, literally, like would be the perfect package. If they had one that was Native, either Native writer or director, even that's still iffy, but like, you know what I mean? Like, have value, come with like, you know, your self-respect. You're not gonna, because that's the thing was, you know, I mean, you see all the films with John Wayne, and you see all the Native people who are actually Native, because a lot of them weren't, but if you see a lot of the Native people getting shot off of horses, they had to do it to get money, you know what I mean? They had to put money on they had to put food on their plate, they had to put up with this misrepresentation, put up with knowing themselves that these are stereotypes, you know, but, and I'm grateful and lucky enough that I can go home, do the same thing, come home, but be proud of what I did, you know what I mean? And that's what you see changing a lot in film. So just keep doing it, do not give up, and you'll succeed, you know?
Awesome. And last question, where can we find you on socials, Instagram, Twitter, all of your handles?
Mine?
Yeah, yours.
Oh, yeah, I only got Instagram, so just like, my Instagram is my name, DeFaro Wanatai. That's it. Yes. I'm not a social media person. I don't really like social media, but don't expect to see any posts or anytime soon or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I'm just vibing. Come see me in real life, like right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have any last closing words?
I closed the last two things I did like months ago on like a quote. So I'm gonna say the exact same quote because I was like hyped off of listening to that guy's quote. So there's an artist, so there's a poet, a musician, an activist, what I call a philosopher. His name is John Trudell. You know, and John Trudell is an amazing person. You should every single person, non-indigenous or not, should look into. And one of the quotes, beautiful quotes, he says is that. He believes that every single person of European descent should look into their tribal ancestry and see how you got quote unquote civilized. And if you see that, you look into it, you'll find that the same thing happened to us, same thing that happened to you happened to us. You know what I mean? The reason why they came over here and only did it in 400 years is because they did it to you guys for 600 years. They learned how to do it quicker, more efficient. You know what I mean? So every single person, if you want to believe it or not, or like it or not, is indigenous. You know what I mean? Every single person. You come from an indigenous tribe somewhere in Europe. You know what I mean? So everyone should reconnect, not just our young indigenous kids, you know, in North America and in South. Every single person from every single tribal ancestry should reconnect, you know? So that's my advice I should leave with you. I did not say those words, do not quote me, that was John Trudell. But, you know, like, those are wise words, man. And also another quote I like to say, because I was literally just listening to, before I hopped up on stage, an artist named Leadbelly. You know, if you guys know, any of you know Leadbelly? Nice, I love it. Leadbelly, he says that 6 feet of dirt make us all in one size. We're the same, guys.
Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and coming all the way out to Colorado. It means a lot to us. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Guys,
you.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Okay.
Deuces.
Oh, wait. Wow, that is beautiful. Nice. Thank you so much. All right, I'll get out of the picture. You don't want my face in there. Cool. I hope you all enjoyed tonight. Thank you for being here, being in community with one another. Don't leave yet, please. I would like to be respectful of everyone's time, obviously wrap things up. Let's give a round of applause to the LSE event planning staff in the booth. They work really hard. They don't get recognized enough, but they do a lot of heavy lifting. But so does the Native American Cultural Center, and so do my people. So let's give us a round of applause. So special thanks to Ty and Rasa for being such great leaders. We really appreciate the both of you. And thank you to my RAM Events staff, my team. This event wouldn't have been fluid without y'all. Y'all are strong and capable, and I appreciate y'all. So can we do the next slide? So I saw y'all out with your phones, so I know you can scan the QR code. Please take this survey. This is important to my work. It will be important to the next NAC liaison. So we need to give our feedback. If you like this event, if you didn't like this event, you can tell me that. It's all legit, okay? So, a recording of this event will be made available on the RAM Events website, and it can be accessible through your CSU e-name and password. So to watch Reservation Dogs, stream Hulu. For more information about the Native American Cultural Center, you can visit our website. There is also a link to donate. That is very important to our resources, to just everyday logistical things, we do not get funded enough, so your donation really matters. And also RAM events, because we have a lot of cool stuff like this happening all the time, and technically, you do pay for this. Very minusculely, I don't know if that's a word, but you do pay for this. You do pay. Okay, thank you all. Y'all can go home and just enjoy Native American Heritage Month. I appreciate you all.